All right. Well, welcome to the podcast, Tree Service Marketing Profits. I'm the host, Wesley Smith here, and we're doing another interview today with our expert series with Andy Felix, the president of Tree Tech Inc. up in Massachusetts. He's specifically in the Foxborough, Massachusetts area, but services all of Eastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And Andy, welcome to the podcast today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate your time on it.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing. Thank you so much for being on. So I guess we'll just dive right into it and get started. Tell us a little bit about your business, maybe kind of how you got started and maybe how long you've been in business and approximate revenue, employees, whatever you want to share would be perfectly fine.
Thanks. I was fortunate to grow up around the industry. In New York, my father worked for a tree company on Long Island specifically, and he got heavily involved in the trade association, which back then was the National Arborist Association. And to make a long story short, he wound up running the National Arborist Association with my mom for 20 years.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it was pretty unique situation. And from there, I got to see, how tree company owners lived and their lifestyle and what their jobs were. And I found it as a pretty cool option, not being so much behind a desk and, working outside and most of those people were doing pretty well for themselves. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So I was fortunate to go to UMass Amherst, where they have the best arboriculture urban forestry program at the time. It was probably the best in the country. Still maybe, but I don't, there's a lot of new programs now. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I went there and, got a good education and background in arboriculture and in insects and disease management. And it was I was very lucky to have that kind of start. So when I graduated, I wound up meeting my wife in college, and she lived in Foxborough. So I followed her back to this area.
Okay.
And left Long Island. Mm-hmm. And took a job with Bartlett out of the Newton, Mass office, which is like their Boston area office.
Sure.
And it was a great experience. I had a nice position there. I was doing very well there and liked working there very much. But as time kind of went on, I got to know the area a little bit better, and a local builder really encouraged me to go on my own. And so, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it or not. Mm-hmm. But, my mother-in-law then told me, no one here ever takes risks, Andy. So you really should, go for it. And because, you just don't know. And so I did it. And that was in 1986. And this person co-signed a loan for me for like $25,000. Mm-hmm. And I went out and bought a brand new chipper and a used chip truck and had one other employee. And that was 35 years ago.
25,000. That's probably more like about 100,000 today, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. It wouldn't go like my brand new chipper that I bought, which I thought I needed something dependable like that, mm-hmm. was $10,000. Mm-hmm. I don't think you could find anything brand new like that.
Oh no, it'd be beat up pretty good. 10,000.
Yeah. But so I had one other employee, and we just did what we had to do to keep going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys got started and just started doing probably like residential type jobs?
Yeah, exactly.
Jobs? Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And, I did some really elementary marketing back then, mm-hmm. the local newspaper and
sure.
And then Yellow Pages. That was a mind blower because after I first met with them to put an ad in, they were like, so that's going to be, $45 or something like that. No, it was not 45. It was $145. And I'm like, well, that's not bad for a year.
Yeah.
And they said, no, that's a month.
Okay.
So, that kind of blew
Yeah.
me away. And
Mhm.
then, but that was the only form really of marketing to utilize back then.
Absolutely.
So
Well, the old Yellow Pages was basically what Google is today, or the search engines. It was what everybody went to look up local companies, you know?
that was it. And man, we've come a long way from there, that's for sure.
Yeah. Mhm.
But so yeah, so now we're a company that has 90 employees, and we're doing about 12 million in sales. We got a
That's
really
awesome.
nice, thanks. We got a really nice mix of business. We actually do, in addition to residential and commercial, commercial tree care, we have a small utility division
Mhm.
that just got renewed for another 4 years.
I saw that. Yeah, the utility is
Yeah,
kind of more of a contractual type, repeat business type service.
it is.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is the utility that we work for has really some good vegetation managers, good guys. We get along really well with them, and the uh, the guys who work on it, they like that kind of work. Like if we had to like beg them to go out there and do that work, we wouldn't do it, because
Yeah.
we just want to. It's just not how we roll. But
Sure.
these guys really dig it. They're good at it, so we're embracing it. But
Yeah.
so it's like a niche thing for us.
So you think is it kind of like about a third residential, commercial, maybe utility?
Um, Utility is 15%.
15%. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. And is it,
yeah,
but just more or less, more so like residential, commercial, and then just a little bit of utility? Gotcha.
right,
Okay.
right.
Well,
We
let's
do
dive in.
a lot of colleges and universities, and I always was interested in some of the more high profile, places to work.
Sure.
And and we've really kind of accomplished that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we've got,
So
I went to the University of Georgia, and there's so many trees on the campus. And I mean, these are several hundred-year-old trees, and just probably the care and the restoration to keep these things, live and healthy is probably a task in itself. So it's probably nice working for those colleges.
this really is. And they have the image that they need to, you know, protect and to keep up. And the safety aspect is really huge,
Mhm.
because some of these
Sure.
older mature trees come with a lot of problems too. So
Yeah.
so it's important that they keep up with it. And we're psyched to, be the one to go to.
Yeah, nice logo type clients. Well, I wanted to kind of
Yes.
go back to a little bit of more of kind of the in between. So from startup to 12 million in annual revenue for your business. So when you started, it was you and another guy and just kind of tackling day-to-day jobs, residential, maybe some commercial, probably kind of started, branching out into other, areas too. How does that look from when you're kind of a one-man truck guy, or, one crew truck guy? You've got your equipment, you can take care of your work with that crew. How does it
Right.
look when you get like a second crew? How does it look buying more equipment? Is that something you wait and save up, pay cash for half, maybe finance the other half, or did you finance everything from the start to kind of keep expanding? Or how did that look kind of in between the nuts and bolts, maybe
Well,
between the 0 to 35 years story?
yeah. So good question. What happened? So in 1986, the economy was on a tear. I mean,
Hmm.
things were really kicking butt, and the money was flowing. And I think a lot of people, got into, bought a lot of equipment back then, and
Yes.
you know, um, built up a lot of debt too. And
Yes.
then this recession that hit in like the late 80s, early 90s, it almost put us out of business. Um, and we were lucky to survive. I mean, my family, we were eating a lot of pasta back then.
Yeah. Mhm.
Fortunately, we didn't go overboard with overhead, but it was a tough time. It was tough because we just started. Then I bought a bucket truck a couple of years
Mhm.
later, and
Mhm.
I borrowed money for that. And then everything else, really was weren't paying cash for things. We were financing,
Mhm.
and the rates were high back then too. And it was just the way it was.
Yeah.
But we fought through it. I mean, at one point I had a 1-day backlog, and then we had a hurricane. Hurricane Bob hit,
Yeah.
and that was like a savior for a lot of us up here. So, but so we've been, we've experienced a lot of tough times, to get to where we got. But the biggest thing I think anybody would say is the people, and fortunately we did some pretty good work, and that had, employees coming to us. We really weren't recruiting, but the ones that, applied to work, we hired them, and, a lot of these guys are still here,
Yeah.
25 and 30 years later.
Oh yeah, you can't grow a business as large as yours without keeping and retaining employees. That's for certain. And you must be doing a great job there. I guess there's kind of benefits packages and things like that for working with Tree Tech.
Yeah, we always, wanted to be able to compete, with the better companies, for benefits, and make sure that this place was always a good place to work, as good as we could make it anyway. And we still do. I mean, that's the key, I think, to a lot of this.
Yeah.
And, and then, of course, then you need to have the right equipment.
Yeah.
You need to update that, and you need to, and we wound up building a facility in 2000, the year 2000. Bought land in 1999, then built a building in 2000, and that really made a difference in our company too.
Kind of puts you on the map, gives you an address, and
and then it's like people could see themselves, there for a while. They a place to hang their hat, so to speak. Because it just raised the bar, of professionalism and the maintenance of equipment and everything. It just really improved. So, that was a big factor.
That's interesting. Yeah. Because those recessions will come and humble people for sure. And I mean, it sounds like since you had a good name out there and a good reputation as a great tree care company, that kind of got you through that period. And then the hurricane came, and that was probably a blessing in disguise, just getting all that work. Yeah.
It really was. It really was. And then, through that time, my dad, he was running the National Arborist Association. So I had probably the best advisor anybody could have, available to me, because he really had his finger on the pulse of everything that was kind of going on industry wise. There was no financial arrangement between us. I mean, this was just purely advice, and but then on the other hand, I helped him too, because I'd start reading some of the editorials that he'd write in TCI magazine, and it would be about me and some of the shit I was going through, going through, and some of the stuff that we've encountered in it, negative wise. And then he would use that to help people, see what could happen, or what to avoid. And I'd start reading it. I'm like, this is about another one of my incidents,
Oh yeah.
But anyway, we all have them in the business. I mean, and in any business, I think, the stories and the things just when you think you've seen it all, then there's something that you couldn't even make up.
Right.
Yeah. So that makes life interesting for sure.
It keeps you on your toes over there, I'm sure.
Oh my God, it does.
Yeah. Well, you could do all the training in the world, and still something unforeseen could still pop up. You know what I mean? And
no doubt.
And it's just kind of, that happens in outdoor work or any kind of physical work. Like I was telling you offline, my dad had a plumbing company, and same type stuff. You can get over financed with equipment, too many trucks, too many things, stuff like that. There could be accidents, all that stuff.
Right. So, and quality gets affected, too.
Yeah.
When you grow like that,
Yeah.
You need to accept that not everybody's going to do things as well as you do them.
Sure.
And that's hard for some people. So
I think
that's hard for me.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of letting go of that day to day and being the person that actually speaks with the customer on site. because you know you're going to do such a great job at it because that's how you built the business. And so kind of letting go of those reins a little bit, maybe getting another crew in place, maybe a third crew, and then just keep building out from there. You have to kind of delegate and really kind of help those people succeed by training
Yeah.
them as well as you can, and then giving them the tools to succeed, which is the whole, all the equipment that one crew would need. And so, yeah.
That's the key, I think. And, fortunately, like I really enjoyed doing the tree work myself too.
Mhm.
But, then I would do, work with the crew on a job, and then I'd have to go out and look at jobs afterwards. So,
Yeah.
I made for a long day. And back then there was no mobile phones at
Yeah. That
all.
was tough. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'd be on the phone till 10 o'clock, at
Mhm.
night, only because I'd have to take a break, be with my kids, have dinner.
Mhm.
And then I was on the phone, and people took phone calls back then. If you called at 10 o'clock, it wasn't too late,
Yeah.
but it did make for a long day. But the thing that helped change it is getting out of the field myself. And
Yeah.
then just really, because it's really hard to grow a business if you're up in
Mhm.
a tree.
Yeah, that's a decision that you have to make, I think, as a business
Yeah,
owner, when you decide I got to draw a line
yeah,
in the sand and I want to build this out. Well, and another thing too is sometimes if you're doing such a great job and you're getting a ton of referrals and your name's getting out there, you've got a good reputation, you've got
Mhm.
too much business coming in for one man crew, right? Anyway, so
Exactly.
that's a good problem to have, but then you've got to make that decision to get out of the truck and start training and hiring and kind of building out that equipment fleet and everything else. So I'm sure
Yeah.
you can speak on that too. It's probably a juggling act, I'm sure, at first.
It was a definite juggling act.
Mhm.
And but after a while, maybe a couple of years, you figure it out where your
Mhm.
time is best utilized. And and again, you need to have those people in the field supporting what you're selling,
Yeah.
and being good with the clients, and being able to make decisions on their own, because we wound up getting two-way radios eventually,
Hmm.
which was kind of cool in a way, because we really could tell, get a sense of what was going on all the time. But no, so it really did. It worked itself out, but not without the people doing the work in the field. I was very fortunate to have
Hmm.
some good people.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, just it's a testament to what you guys are doing up there to growing. I mean, it's a kind of a cliche statement, great customer service, fair
Mm,
pricing, and then just going above and beyond for everybody to make sure they're happy, because bad word spreads a whole lot faster than a good word. So,
no
uh,
doubt,
you know,
especially now more than ever.
oh, online. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, you could get crucified right now.
You
So,
really
and
can.
I
You
have
get,
to remind everybody of that all the time.
and it could sometimes there's people out there that are competitors that will go online and do stuff like that. There's disgruntled employees. There's a lot of different ways that can happen. And unfortunately, what I tell our clients too, and anybody, is just make sure you're getting a ton of 5-star reviews, because inevitably somebody's going to run over somebody's grass at some point. Somebody's going to do
Yeah.
something, or knock a fence down or whatever, and that person's going to get angry. Even if you go make it right, they might still be angry and they want to go. That's the energy that they have to go leave that bad review. So if you got a ton of them to wash it out, ton of 5-star reviews, it's not going to make that big of a difference.
See, that's good. That's good
Mhm.
advice.
Mhm.
I that's one thing I noticed that we do not do, is we don't really have not sought out the review thing very
Mhm.
much, and
Yeah.
I think that and then because we were so busy, we had this little cottage in New Hampshire, and it needed a lot of tree work, and I couldn't, take a crew out,
Mhm.
from here to go up there. So I hired a company in New Hampshire to do this work at my place, and then all their invoicing and everything was all kind of geared, towards that, pushing that review.
Right.
And who knows, it might be one of your clients that is doing that. I don't know. I don't know if I should bring their name up,
Oh,
but they
New
did a
Hampshire.
great
No.
job.
Yeah. No, we don't have
Yeah,
anybody in New Hampshire currently.
yeah. This is Arbortech, it's a company, and they did a nice job. They did,
Mhm.
and the follow up and the it was very professional the way they
Mhm.
did it. And I didn't leave them a review
Yeah.
because only because I just don't do that. But
Yeah. Well, and that's like most people. Most people don't go out of their way to leave a review when they're happy. If you ask them
yeah,
and you kind of, request, hey, look, if you're on the lookout for this review, it really, really helps our company out. They'll most of the
yeah,
time do it for you, right? But if you don't mention it, sometimes they get surprised by the review request and maybe they don't do it. But they're more likely to go leave a bad review if they're angry or pissed off, for
no
sure.
doubt, no
And
doubt.
so, well, that's great, man. It's
Yeah.
all this stuff is very enlightening about how you got to where you're at today. What right now would you say you guys as like ideal customer is in this current market, or just maybe the last 5 years? Like what's kind of your ideal customer? Is that residential, commercial,
Well,
or is
yeah. I
that
mean,
utility?
I think in any of the segments of work, I mean, I think building relationships
Hmm.
is a huge thing to do.
Hmm.
Like I have clients that are friends,
Hmm.
that, and then to build trust, and
Hmm.
so, to answer your question, I mean, if it's possible to build a relationship with a potential client and then have them as a client is a good thing. And to be honest, and to be,
Yes.
and to earn their trust. And, I have a lot of clients now who don't even just ask me to send a crew
Hmm.
and not even go to their property. And because they know that, we're going to send what they need done will be done on time,
Hmm.
and be reliable and do what they want us to do for the price that, is consistent, but
Hmm.
to answer that's not really answering your question. The ideal client is someone who really has a lot of trees
Yeah.
and shrubs and
Hmm.
has a genuine interest in their landscape.
Hmm.
Um, does not want to, screw around with price and,
Hmm.
it doesn't make that the priority. Um, someone who cares about our well-being
Hmm.
as a business too. I mean, they don't, they care if they don't want to see us get hurt,
Hmm.
financially. I mean, that's kind of there, you know, because there's in the over the years, I mean, there's people who out and out know that we're losing money on something for whatever reason. And it's just could care less to see us get hurt.
Hmm.
And that really, I couldn't imagine, knowingly say, screw you, screw that, too bad on you,
Right.
and I'm going to stick it to you, somehow. And then call again to ask for us to come back out,
Yeah, which is why you
Um,
can't do, the cheapest work around town just to win the business. You've got to have a price that, meets everything that you need as a company for your insurance, your safety, your training, your equipment, and accounts for all of that stuff, which, it is kind of probably disheartening when people come in the market and they're just lowballing pricing and all that stuff too, because you got to explain yourself away, even if they get a quote like that. But it sounds like your name is kind of overcoming a lot of those objections too. And I wanted to dig in too, just a second about, I noticed you guys are big into like the plant health care, shrub care, tree health,
yeah.
spraying, all those things. That's really a big business side of this industry
Mm,
that a lot of people avoid. And maybe it's because of the training involved to get learned up, to get, all the knowledge it takes
yeah.
to get all of that, to be able to treat those. And you guys are big in that. And I've talked to a lot of companies that do it. And it seems like those are the ones with multiple crews doing the, multiple $1 million in revenue. They're in that plant health care industry as well as the tree service side too. And it just seems to be that's more of kind of a repeat business or recurring type business instead of just going and taking a tree down and you're done. Can you speak a
Exactly.
little bit to that? Like, because
Absolutely. As
Mhm.
I would say that, we're not big in it. I think
Mhm.
it was a mistake we made by not being as into it as we should have been
Mhm.
over the years. I mean, we addressed a lot of, infestations like gypsy moth or winter moth or whatever was, the flavor of the season over the last, several years, but we didn't really cultivate that plant healthcare approach like it should. And I should have known better because I know a lot about insect and disease control and, cultural practices and all of it. It's just that, it took more to sell that.
Mhm.
And your salespeople need to sell that be selling that all the time and be looking for it. And so, and not everybody's adept at it. Like you said, it
Mhm.
does take, some knowledge of in time, the timing and the product knowledge and everything else. And, but I wouldn't let that intimidate people who aren't doing it, who would like to. I mean, if you're interested, you could learn a lot quick, or you could hire somebody,
Yeah.
hopefully, who does know, and let them run with it if you don't have the time to learn it. But it's so worthwhile. And like you said, the recurring revenue and visits, that's where your value really is the strongest as a company.
Mhm.
Is, if someone from the outside was looking in, they'd want to see that kind of activity in your business versus, like you said, one hit wonders where,
Right.
you're taking down the last tree on someone's property. And it's like, have a good life. I'll see you.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people are getting into the tree planting too. They'll do that. If they do take one
Mm.
down, they'll plant a new one or something. I guess a good place to start would probably be if they're not already members of the TCIA or ISA, there's probably lots of good learning and education programs inside those associations, right?
So true. And, earlier I meant to mention that, my involvement in those trade associations as a company and as, individually was a huge help to me,
Mhm.
and to the company to build it and to be, active in those associations, was very worthwhile.
Yeah, I
And
enjoy it myself, just kind
yeah,
of learning around in there, going to the trade show once a year, seeing all the equipment in one place. It's amazing how much stuff is in one place.
yeah, it's that's really good. But the camaraderie part, or the just learning from, and talking and shooting the breeze
Hmm.
with other people in the industry, it's very it's got a lot of value. And you're making friends too, which is okay.
Yeah, I think it's invaluable to be able to talk to people in the same business as you and share best
Mm.
practices. I'm in the same type master, minds with other agency owners too. And it's just very helpful to see what's working, what's not working, how to deal
Yeah,
with this, how to deal with that, how to put out this fire, that fire.
telling you, I mean,
Yeah.
there is so much to consider and then to give back to, if
Yeah. Mhm.
a solution, or an
Mhm.
approach or whatever, to share that with somebody. I mean, we like doing that, to be able to help people too.
Yeah.
And we work for other tree companies, or here in this area, for things that they might not have access to yet,
Hmm.
and we try to help out, and
Sure.
we'd rather be, collaborate with these companies than, to have anything adversarial.
Right. Or
It's
be like
much,
just competitors. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
it's like, you never know how things will go out there.
Hmm.
And, you may need to, work together in the future or whatever.
Hmm.
And, we don't help them for free, but,
Right.
if it means picking up some logs for them, and whatever, we do that for a few other companies. And, it works out fine.
That's awesome. Well, let's get into a little bit just real quick.
Yeah.
Don't want to
Yeah.
take up too much of your time either. I really appreciate you sharing. I think a lot of people are going to get a ton of value out of this. So thanks a lot, Andy. The
Hope
next
so.
thing is, I think, what type of marketing are you guys doing today? Do you guys have kind of a mixed bag? Do you guys do any kind of billboard or radio or internet marketing or social media? What all types of
Yeah.
things are you guys doing?
So we initially, you know, have being an older person now, in, not having that technology back, knowledge like younger people would have.
Hmm.
You know, it was a little slow moving into the social media
Hmm.
aspect of marketing, and but I knew that we needed to embrace it, whether I was familiar with it or not. So we tried to do that in house, and we made some inroads, into it, and we're able to at least have a presence,
Hmm.
online. But so we were not blowing it off, but we did have something going on, as lame as it was, or
You guys have plenty of business already, so yeah.
right. And it was
Yeah.
never about a sell. It was always about being informative, or a light sale thing, never a heavy sale. But the billboard thing is funny because I happened to work for a company that owns some billboards in the area. And this recruiting thing has been really tough. And I get solicited a lot for the marketing things to generate leads and so forth. And I would just respectfully reply, so we need help. We don't need business right now, because I know that could change. But right now, for us to go out and get more leads and business would be semi-suicidal.
Yeah, you've got plenty. You need help. Yeah, you need help. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how it is now. And hopefully, the help thing gets better, and then we grow. So we maybe do need more referrals and more, generation of leads. But so right now it's tough. So anyway, I did this billboard campaign on these electronic billboards. So you get like, I think 10-second.
Yeah, they rotate. Yeah.
Right. So for them, man, they're doing really well. Instead of having one person up there, they have 4.
True.
On one board, whatever it is. But we didn't get, I think we ran on 4 billboards because I kind of traded it off with them. Because we did some work and, for the billboard clearing and stuff. I don't think we got a lead.
Oh, really?
Out of like 6 weeks of, billboard advertising for recruiting, career opportunities, and maybe the content could have been better. I don't know, but clearly there were in this, this was at a time when also there was a lot of, the additional unemployment insurance.
Right.
So who knows? I don't think it was that people didn't want to work here. I hope, but I do think the timing wasn't the best, but I was just really trying to get outside the box, so to speak, on recruiting.
Well, and I think that's a good avenue to take. I think, a lot of times with the billboard play, it's more of a kind of a branding approach too, and just getting that name tattooed in everybody's memory. So if they do have an issue, they call. So what we found is that sometimes it definitely is difficult to track if a call has came from a billboard or a radio spot, because what happens is they'll go to Google or one of the search engines and they'll search for Tree Tech Inc. because they saw the billboard, and then you don't really know they came in because they saw the billboard.
That's true.
So it can be a little indirect type lead flow from that, but you're right. They're not, actually looking for a tree service at that moment when they're driving down the road, but they see the sign.
Yeah. Whereas, so there is that upside that is tough to measure. You're right.
Yeah. That's cool. So it sounds like you've tried a little bit of all that stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm probably forgetting some things that, we've done to, aside from what you see others doing, like we up here, there's help wanted signs everywhere.
Right.
And then, a lot of companies, not just tree companies, but plumbers and electricians, and a lot of the trades have signs on their vehicles.
Yeah. That's a good way to recruit too, because a lot of people are probably following your business. So if you have those signs on the trucks and they're on the website and all that stuff, then you're going to get probably some people that inquire, I would imagine. Not as many as you want. Yeah.
No, what the best for us has been word of mouth on that too, and we incentivize the guys here. If they know somebody and they they work here for 3 months, then we'll give them, $500 or, like a reward, for that's played out okay. But by all means, you and I should talk afterwards about if you're doing any marketing for recruitment.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean,
that's something we've considered adding, because I've got a few peers that do that in the landscaping industry and a few other ones. And we're kind of learning that whole process of how to bring in more employee candidates.
I think that's good. That could work with, it's got potential anyway, from what I could see.
No, you're right.
But
The general consensus is it's been a little bit tougher to get employees for sure. So yeah.
but it's still, and then keeping them
Yeah.
is really important.
Mhm.
So we really, I think we're doing a pretty good job. And if we could do better, I insist on people here telling me or telling us that, what's wrong, or,
Mhm.
keeping the door open. Because we don't want to blow it either. If
Sure.
it's
Sure.
something blatantly, or something even subliminally going on that is a negative, we really want to have a chance to fix it or to address it or whatever.
Yeah. Is there any kind of marketing that you guys are doing just specifically to your existing customer base? Like maybe an
Yes.
email newsletter or something like that?
So I mentioned this to you offline, but we did hire a third party
Mm-hmm.
company to implement the social media part and
Mm-hmm.
to do the SEO work.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably stuff you do too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do a monthly blog on a
Sure.
subject um, that we suggest,
Mm-hmm.
something that is trending,
Mm-hmm.
in our industry. And then we'll do a monthly email blast to our clients.
And
And,
it's usually probably the blog post, maybe with a little snippet, and then they can click the read more type thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly it. So it just gives you the highlight
Mm-hmm.
information. And then if they want to go further, they do.
That's smart.
And yeah,
Mhm.
well, because I'm not like I said earlier, you don't need to be a hard sell. It's more
Mhm.
informative stuff. Like,
Oh yeah.
it's sometimes it's really could be pretty dry too. So you got to kind of
Yeah.
think of something that's going to be of interest to more people than not. This
Mhm.
month's one is about, root collar
Yeah.
and girdling roots and so forth. And, it's interests me, but I don't
Sure.
know,
Are there any
but
tips or
people,
yeah, absolutely. No, that's good. Inform people, educate them, and then they'll think of you when they need the service for sure.
yeah.
What about the you guys are in a really cold climate up there in the north, in the probably the winter months, 3, 4, 5 months straight. What is it that you guys do to kind of stay busy during those times? We've got a lot of clients that are up that way, and a lot of them, I tell you, they really slow way down drastically for 2, 3, 4 months, and then they really pick it up. But then some of them are busy because they've got several employees. So what's your kind of, is it
So
just a repeat business thing or?
yeah, it's funny, like just going to these trade association things and
Mhm.
talk with people, and you know you'd hear like it's some people about winter work. They would say, if you don't have your winter work sold by Halloween or Thanksgiving or
Right.
whatever, you're screwed or whatever. You're not going to be able to sell work in the off
Mm.
season. So I always took that kind of advice and tried to push clients to, or suggest for them to do work in the winter versus doing it in season if
Mhm.
it can be done.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So over the last several years now, we've like with the golf course industry,
Mhm.
we really have tried to defer all their work to the winter time, and they're loving it
Mhm.
because we're not interrupting any play,
Yep.
and we have better access and
Mhm.
all of the benefits. So that's a big chunk.
Mhm.
For us, that utility component is
Mhm.
really helpful because
Yep.
we can pile on some guys if necessary, because it's all a
Mhm.
lot of roadside work.
Yep.
If there's a big snow storm and you can't even walk through someone's yard efficiently,
Yeah. Yeah.
we have that component there.
Mhm.
And we just improvise with equipment and just pushing or suggesting to clients that they wait until the winter time, and it'll save them money purely on access, for
Mhm.
access reasons, because we could do things faster. You don't have the flowers, and
Yeah.
the gardens, to deal with as much,
Mhm.
so we've never laid anybody off.
During the winter time? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds so.
I think, well, one winter, maybe 1996, I think,
That year you were
we had
talking
like
about with the
100.
recession. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, that was good times, but I just
Mhm.
remember specifically that there was over 100 inches of snow
Oh,
that
wow.
winter.
Yeah.
And back then we were actually plowing snow in the winter,
Mhm.
which I don't recommend.
Not to
It's
fill the
not a
gaps.
good.
Don't do that, huh?
No, if you're in the landscape industry and
Mhm.
you're not working in the field anyway, I could see it. But for us, we would work around the clock to, clear snow. And then when we'd be back to work, a day later doing tree work. I mean, it was
Mhm.
kind of exhausting in a sense. It wasn't
Yeah.
good for the guys. So that was a good day when we gave that up.
Well, I think those are great nuggets of wisdom for the wintertime gaps is just
Yeah.
when you branch out in those other departments in your company and you have the contracted work with golf courses or any other place like that, probably public type places where people aren't going to during those
Yep.
months. And then
Exactly.
also the utilities and the vegetation contracts, all that stuff is going to bridge those gaps when you can't get into residential yards or commercial building
Right.
yards and things like that. So I think that's a very good piece of advice for people that are looking to make sure they stay busy year round,
Mhm.
especially in the colder markets for sure.
The other
Um,
thing I'd like to mention here is that, what working with landscape companies,
mhm,
that's really kind of helped get us on the map too, with some of the bigger companies in the area.
mhm.
We would do the tree work part, for their landscaping project or whatever, and we were never competing with them. So if we got on a property, we would wind up staying
Mhm.
as the arborist firm, and after they were done with their project. So because it's never a conflict that way.
Mhm.
But so hooking up with some landscape companies goes a long way, and some of that do commercial work, that do commercial maintenance.
Mhm.
That can generate some winter work
Yeah, inevitably
as
they're going to
well.
need some tree service work done when they're doing
Yeah.
these big landscaping projects, and they don't have the
Yep.
equipment to do all that, I'm sure. So,
No.
not anywhere close.
Well, there's some tree companies that do a lot of landscape work as well,
Mhm.
and there's some landscape companies that do a lot of tree work as well.
Yeah.
If they can do that effectively, hats off to them,
Mhm.
um, because I think they're two different animals. But
That's what I was
you
going to
know,
say. Yeah, we've
yeah,
we've experienced that too with a few clients that do both, and it
yeah,
seems like some of them start off that way, and they kind of morph into just tree service eventually. I think because the invoice and the per job is more than the landscaping a lot of times, and the lawn care and stuff like that. So,
yep.
um,
No, it's definitely some people, some companies I know that do it well and do it
mhm.
profitably. But man, just the estimating part is so much different, and
Yeah.
the uh, the the different employee needs, just
Mhm.
whatever you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just thought that was another good market
Yes.
to approach. And then there's some landscapers that don't pay their bills very well either. So
Yeah.
if you don't get paid by, like, Thanksgiving for
Uh-huh.
something you did in season,
Yeah.
that's probably a red flag.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. It's the same with the homeowners or commercial clients. You're going to get one out of several that, maybe are slow paying or don't pay. And what would you tell maybe the owner of a tree service business who's probably got some momentum? They got some steam building. They're kind of moving forward. And they're trying to take their company to the next level. And I know that, there's nothing they're going to be able to do overnight to get to where you're at. But, a lot of people like to look out 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in their business and just know that that's possible. And that's why I really appreciate your time today, Andy, just kind of sharing your story and things like that. People are really interested in things like this, but maybe a guy that's got a couple of crews, maybe they're cracking $1 million a year, and how are they going to 10x that? And I think we've probably discussed a lot of those ways in our interview
yeah.
already, but just maybe in a summary, what would you say?
Well, I mean, I think, and this was told to me by someone who I respect very much, but a couple of fundamental things, like we always have somebody answering the phone,
Hmm.
from 7 till 5 o'clock,
Hmm.
and versus an answering machine. And I think that goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And, to, some, a lot of companies won't even return a call these days,
I agree.
so when
Totally.
they,
Yeah.
when they call here and they get a human, I think that's that's an easy step forward,
Of course. Yes.
although it's an overhead item and I get that, but
Mm-hmm.
you got to look at it in the big picture. Look at
Mm-hmm.
all of these things in the big picture.
Well, and just to kind of expand on that too, there's a lot of people that maybe complain about paying an answering service. And I know that they're not all 100% professional and all that stuff, but man, just taking the call live and not losing that caller, at least at first, maybe is a better situation than just not returning or going to voicemail.
Yeah. Yeah, I have,
I mean,
and that maybe that's changing, but
mhm.
I know for a fact that right now and in the last 20 years, it's made a difference because people say so.
Yeah.
On new business,
Mhm.
on new business. What we do now too is we don't do any drive-by
Mhm.
appointments anymore. And this was good for the planned healthcare thing. If you're gonna implement that or you want to grow that part of your business, you need to have like a face-to-face appointment with people
Mhm.
versus just going by and looking at something and then leaving a quote or emailing or something. But I think there's a lot of value in that,
Mhm.
setting things up that way. And I think just to embrace the technology
Mhm.
that's out there. I'm hoping that whatever, there'll be more things that'll make our industry safer
Mhm.
and more efficient. And, whatever is out there that will do that, it should be considered by a company, where, it'll make it more fun to do the work or,
Yeah.
not fun, but, a lot easier,
Mhm.
be it a mini with a grapple on it or,
Yeah.
or the new pieces they have with the grapple saw. If
Yeah.
you're
Those
doing
are
tree
cool.
removals,
Yeah. Mhm.
although we don't own one of those yet, but we've demoed it. We're just not ready.
Mhm.
We don't think that they're ready to go yet, but for our mark, for what we do, but
Sure.
there's some pretty cool stuff coming down the pike. And so I think that goes a long way,
Awesome. Yeah. So answering the phone live, building that rapport, building that relationship, doing what you say you're going to do,
Yeah,
in the first place,
yeah,
really. And then
really.
face-to-face appointments, really, especially for the plant healthcare side, because I'm sure there's a lot of moving parts to that. It's not a one size fits all, of course.
Right. And
Yeah.
you got to be able to identify things on someone's property that they may not be aware of.
Mhm.
You don't have to, but it's helpful to do that because, and all you have to ask them is if they're interested in
Yeah.
knowing more about this,
Mhm.
and, you want to be able to make their landscape as healthy and attractive as possible. Right.
Mhm.
So,
And you would say probably getting the name out there too. I mean, you're definitely, if you're doing good work, you're getting referrals, but that may not be enough, until if you hire another crew or a third or fourth crew, you're going to need more calls coming in and more lead flow to keep everybody kind of busy, I would say. So, I mean, I'm sure you told the
definitely.
story about the yellow pages at the beginning, in addition to something else. And so you got to kind
Yeah.
of put your name out there for sure. Right.
Yeah. I didn't bring this up too, but on that same idea is about branding. We have a brand,
Mhm.
that we've created, and we have a simple logo. We're very recognizable. All our
Mhm.
trucks are fleet, colored.
Mhm.
We have color scheme that's different from everybody else's, which isn't necessarily essential, but at least having it uniform
Mhm.
with a logo and you have, if you're consistent with those things, that has a lot of value, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Long term for
Uh,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, and
Mhm.
and then having guys in uniforms or the
Mhm.
same T-shirt or some uniformity on that end gives a better perception of professionalism. Those are those little things that really make a difference.
Yeah, and that's marketing without marketing almost. It's like you're spending the money one time on the wrapping of the truck or the signs in the yard or workwear and stuff like that, but yet everybody sees it every single day, multiple times. So that really adds up an exponential, just everybody knowing about your company. And then remembering this is the logo with Tree Tech, and this is, that goes a long way in the local area.
It really does. I think it does. And that was one thing we won't even put a truck out unless it's our colors.
Right.
And we have like a rental or something that's white. And, for me, it just kind of drives me crazy, but it's, it is what it is. You got to put things to work when you got to, but to spend that extra money to have things look uniform I think it's important.
Absolutely. Well, Andy, I really, really appreciate you sharing today. I think our audience is going to get a ton of value out of it. Just you talking about your business, how you went from where you started to where you're at today, over 12 million in annual revenue, and 35 years plus in business. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, everybody aspires to do that. They just got to hang on and keep working hard,
That's it, man. It's all about, it's that perseverance, because believe me, and you got to be able to take a punch.
Yeah.
If you can't take a punch, it'll never work.
That's right.
I've been battered pretty good, because it's just not that easy.
Yeah.
It's just not. And if it were easy, right, everybody'd be doing
that. That's right. Not everybody can get to that big of a company, but I really appreciate you sharing and the wisdom that you have in business. And thank you so much.
Best of luck. Best of luck. There's value in there's a lot of value in what you do. And I hope that, this helps you as well, because you know your stuff. So
thank you.
Thanks for having me, Wes.
Thank you. Have a great day and a great weekend.
All right, you too. So long.